Hey everybody, once again, this is Danny Mathematics again, and today I want to go over example 4 and example 5 of how to add and subtract negative and positive fractions, okay? And remember guys, from my last videos, I always draw out the tic-tac-toe tool, or just understand from this tool that same signs we add, opposite signs we subtract. So at the end, if I end up with 2 negative fractions, I'm going to add them. If I end up with 2 positive fractions, I'm going to add them. But I end up with a positive fraction, a negative fraction, or a negative fraction, a positive fraction, I'm going to subtract. So that's why I have opposite signs subtract, same signs add, okay? So let's go ahead and start with what we have. So far, guys, I have a negative 1 2/3 minus a parentheses, negative 3/5, okay? Once again, I have a negative 1 2/3 minus a parentheses, negative 3/5. The reason why this number is in parentheses is because it's telling us that we need to subtract a negative. Remember, growing up, we were only used to subtracting positives. So what do they really mean when they want us to subtract a negative? So once again, we have to manipulate this to find out the true operation. So I'm going to take the subtraction sign, and then I'm going to combine that with the negative sign of the second fraction, right? And I'm going to see what's going to come out. Now, remember, guys, opposite signs we subtract. They're not opposite. They're the same. So the same signs we add. So because we add whenever we have the same signs, we're going to cancel these signs out, and those signs become the addition sign. They become the addition sign. So those signs cancel out, and they are going to morph into the addition sign, okay? And then from that, everything else will come down as is, okay? So I still have a negative 1, negative 1, I just want to use the same colors to keep everybody together. Negative 1 2/3. And remember, guys, I no longer have that negative sign that was associated with 3/5 because it canceled out into this positive sign. So I'm just going to bring down 3/5. So now, guys, I see what it means to subtract to subtract a negative. To subtract a negative is just like adding a positive. Once again, to subtract a negative is just like adding a positive. So now we got the true operation within this particular problem. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do, guys, is we want to circle each fraction with the sign that's in front of it, which will be now the sign that's associated with it. Okay, so of course, negative 1 2/3 already had the negative sign associated with it, so we know that's a negative. And 3/5, it had this plus sign in front of it, so we're going to combine it with the plus sign to make it positive. Okay, so I clearly see that I have a negative fraction and a positive fraction. So the next thing, guys, we need to do is we need to draw a long, elongated chart, a horizontal chart. And one side is going to be the negative side, meaning that if we work on this side, our answer is going to be negative. If we work on the positive side, that means that our answer will be positive. Now, in order for us to figure out what side we're going to work on, what we need to do is we need to erase, or not erase, but let's just drop the signs to see which fraction will be bigger, right? If you was to ignore the signs. If I was to drop the signs, I would see that 1 2/3 is bigger than 3/5, right? But I would have to also include the sign because the sign is telling us where we're going to work, okay? So once again, if I drop the signs, negative 1 2/3, or just 1 2/3 will be bigger than 3/5, and it's a negative, which means that we're going to have to work on the negative side, meaning that my answer will be negative. Okay? So remember, guys, we're going to have to associate a negative sign with our answer. Okay? So now all we're going to do is we're going to bring 1 2/3 on this side because that's what brought us over here. And I don't need a sign anymore because I'm on the side of the chart that represents that sign. So I have 1 2/3. And I'm going to bring down the next fraction, which is 3/5, right? Once again, guys, remember our rules. Same signs we add, opposite signs we subtract. I can clearly see that these two fractions have opposite signs, which tells me that I need to subtract. Okay? So now I have 1 2/3 minus 3/5. Now, the biggest dilemma, guys, that we have is that they do not have the same denominator, right? 3 does not equate to 5. And that's the only way that we can solve this or subtract this if the denominators is the same. So since they're not the same, right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna multiply 3 times 5, and because I know if I multiply 5 times 3 over here, I'm gonna get the same thing. So I'm gonna multiply this fraction by this denominator, right, by 5, and I'm gonna multiply this fraction by this denominator by 3. Because I know 5 times 3 equals 3 times 5, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So now we're manipulating our fractions to where we can actually solve and subtract. So I still got 1, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 5 is 15, and then over here, 3 times 3 is 9, and then 5 times 3 is 15. So now I have 1 and 10 over 15 minus 9 over 15. Okay, so now we're ready to solve. Now, once again, I don't subtract anything from the base of 1 because this second fraction does not have a base. So it's basically saying 1 minus 0, which is 1. Remember, guys, we never, ever, ever subtract the denominators. So it's going to still be 15. We only subtract the numerators, and I'm going to make them be red so we can clearly see what we're subtracting. So 10 minus 9 equals 1. So that is my answer. Oh, actually, we're forgetting something, guys, because remember, we're on the negative side, right? Meaning that our answer has to have a negative sign associated with it. So our answer is -1 and 1 over 15. This is our answer. -1 and 1 over 15 is our answer. Okay. All right, real quick over here, guys. As you see, there's no number, or the second fraction is not in the parentheses, so we can actually skip that step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle both fractions with the signs that are associated with it. 2 1/2 doesn't have a sign in front of it, which automatically tells me that it's a positive. So both of them are positives, meaning that same sign we add, right? And since it's the same sign, I don't necessarily have to do the chart because I already know that I'm going to add, and I'm adding 2 positives. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring everything else down. So I got 2 1/2. And once again, same sign, which means we're gonna add. So basically, this operation really stays the same. Plus 9 over 10. Once again, the dilemma is, guys, the denominators have to be the same, okay? So I need to make 2 and 10 equate, right? So what we can do is we can do the same thing as we did. I can multiply 2 by 10, or I can multiply 10 by 2. I could do that. Or I know for a fact that 10 is a multiple of 2. And if I multiply 2 by 5, I will get 10. So I'm going to do that with this fraction. I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 5, right? So now I have 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10, and I still have 9 over 10. And then all I need to do, guys, is just add, and I'm going to make them be red so we can see, just add the numerators, okay? And the bases as well. 2 plus a base of 0 is this 2. Of course, the denominator stayed the same, which is over 10. And then 5 plus 9 is 14. Okay, since the numerator is bigger than the denominator, I know for a fact, guys, that 10 goes into 14 one time. Okay, and I'm going to do it right here. 10 goes into 14 one time, right? Because 10 times 1 equals 10. So 1 is the base, right? This is the 1 that we're going to have to add to the base of 2. So it's going to be a plus 1, right? And then, of course, if I get the remainder, 14 minus 10, which is 4, This is gonna be my new numerator. Right? So now we can change this into a proper fraction of, once again, that base of 1, I gotta add it to the base of 2, which is 3. And I only have a remainder of 4 on top now. So it's gonna be 4 over 10. So this is our answer, guys, 3 and 4 over 10. And of course, we can simplify as well. So let's just simplify by dividing by 2, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my final answer, which all of these are the answer, but my most simplified answer is gonna be 3 and 2 over 5, or 3 and 2/5. That is my final answer, okay? Thank y'all so much, guys, for tuning in, and I will come out with more videos soon. Thank you.